Hi. Hi, Chris. Hi, everybody.
Hey, Eve, can you hear me okay?
Perfectly.
Okay, good.
Hi. Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I am going to start on time. It's just kind of my style. So I'm really glad that you could join us. I know it's early on a Saturday morning for a lot of you, so I'm glad you could make it. So those of you that don't know me, I'm Eve Hayes, and I'm the founder of the Screenwriters Safari. And Chris is going to be one of our mentors, Chris LOCKHART, who many of you know. And Chris can do a little introduction. He works for WME and his claim to fame for all of us screenwriters. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Chris.
Well, I'm originally from New York City, and you mean like my professional stuff? You want like, like I like long walks on beaches?
Yeah, whatever you want to tell us.
I have a son. I have a 12-year-old son, 12 and a half-year-old son. That's very important. Yeah, I have been working, I've actually been in the business for 30 plus years, and actually started as a writer. I came out to Los Angeles with a writing partner, and I wrote for 10 years. And then certain circumstances occurred, and I sort of found myself in a situation where I ended up taking a job at a talent agency, working with a very big agent who was looking for a story consultant, somebody who could read scripts for his very high-end client list and help him make decisions on sort of what scripts he should be passing on to his clients and which ones he should just be passing to the trash. And so that just sort of snowballed into what I'm doing now. I'm at WME, which is a talent agency. It started out as William Morris and Endeavor, and then in two separate agencies, and then they merged in 2009 to create WME. And I am the story editor there, and which is, sort of encompasses a rather large amount of duties that's really revolve around scripts and the creative.
Ooh,
listen, by the
really
way,
what we want to
Eve,
hear from you.
That was so bad. Look, it is a little early in the morning, all right? I'm not gonna lie. I'm usually up really early. I slept till about 7, which is actually late for me. But I might need a little bit of time to get to,
No, that's okay.
Okay.
No, I understand. Well, we're on the other end, ending the day. So at some point, I don't know who's in the middle, but yeah. So, and also just for those of you that don't know, Chris administers a massive screenwriters group called the Inside Pitch, which I'm pretty sure most of you are members of, and it's incredibly informative. I know it's certainly enriched my screenwriting life, and we're always very grateful for that, that you do for all of us screenwriters. And yeah, everybody who's here today, I think, is enticed by the theme of this, which is kind of like a day in the life of your life as a story editor. We often hear your interviews that you do with other people, but it'd be really nice just to hear, like, how does your day go, and what kind of things that we may not know can you share with us? Obviously, we understand there's some confidentiality and things like that, but what would your day consist of in terms of screenwriting and being a story editor?
Well, this is sort of this is like a Frankenstein kind of job in many ways, because it really does not exist anywhere else. There's no talent agency who has a person do what it is that I do. And that's mostly because the job was created by this agent who I mentioned earlier, who was an iconoclast in the business and really sort of marched to the beat of his own drummer. And so, as a result, my job was born. So it's, I would say I do a few things. I would say that I'm a story analyst. And then I sort of take on the responsibilities that a development executive might at a studio, and even a producer might.
Okay.
And so really the one thing that my job entails the most is reading, because that's the only way to access the material. So my job specifically is to look for potential projects for a certain list of A talent. So I know a lot of people already aware that I've been working with Denzel Washington for 25 years, and Steve Martin, Richard Gere, Rachel McAdams, the Safdie brothers, who are directors, writer-directors, Nicholas Jarecki, who wrote and directed Arbitrage, Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise in the It movies, and others who I'm leaving off, Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman, and some others. So, I'm sort of I am a conduit between the creative material and the artists.
So who comes to you first? Do the scripts come to you via WME, or do they come to you directly, or do the actors bring you the scripts, or do they come through all channels?
All channels. They come to me any way that they can get to me. So all the ways that you just mentioned and more. Studio executives, studio presidents, they come from the clients themselves, they come from the client's assistants, they come from the agency, they come from producers, they come from outside agencies, they come from anywhere. Anybody who is trying to access Denzel Washington, and that can be anybody, could potentially get their script on my desk.
And how often do you look for like a fresh script? Like, would you actually go out and look for something? I'm sure you get a lot of emails. Do you ever go, I'm looking for something in particular, or you get some kind of mandate? How does that happen? Or is it just that you're so busy, you just deal with what you've got on your plate? How does that work?
In the beginning, when I first started 1,000 years ago, I would sort of go out and search. But the truth is that, like, at that time, I was working with Mel Gibson, who was the biggest movie star in the world. And so we would get everything. We would get everything from Mel. I didn't need to go out to search for anything. Everything came to him. And then what was great was that because Mel can only make 1 or 2 movies a year, I had still read all of this stuff that then I could siphon to other clients. I call it bait and switch. I've been doing it for years, where a script comes in specifically for one client, and then I make the suggestion for another client. And then subsequently that other client ends up starring in the movie. So something like, I always like to talk about the movie Taken with Liam Neeson. Liam Neeson was also a client at the time, and that script came to me for Mel Gibson, and Mel had already done Ransom, which was an A-list movie. So I made the suggestion of, how about Liam Neeson? And then that's really all I do. I make the suggestion, and then the agents run with it or not.
Okay.
And so no, I don't really have to go out and look all that much. If people want Denzel Washington, they're going to come to Denzel Washington. Now, that doesn't mean that there are times when I feel like, despite the fact that I have 500 scripts on my pile, that I'm not finding the kind of project that I need. And then I might search. But honestly, I often just search in my own data bank. So, what is it that...
From the people you know.
Yeah, or the scripts that I've already read. So, for example, Denzel Washington is starring in a movie next month called The Little Things with Rami Malek and Jared Leto. All three are clients of my agency. And so Denzel wanted to find a project that sort of had a 1970s grit to it, you know, sort of like a cop thriller that they would have made in the 1970s. So I just sort of, you know, thought back, and I remember having read The Little Things probably in 1999. And so I brought that out. So that's often the case. You know, I'll often just go back. I've read over 60,000 screenplays. So, you know, I'll often just go back. So even though we might have passed on your script today, I might come back to it in the future.
Yeah, it's like a video I saw the other day where someone who's been trying to get into Netflix for so long, he said, no just means not today. So you never know.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just want to ask you, in your head, or in, you know, your mandate, who is the person that you want to please the most in terms of the scripts? Is it the actor? Is it the director? Or working with the writer? Or
It's the client. So whoever the client may be. So, you know, first and foremost, my job is to service the client, not necessarily the material. So now, of course, I think after 25 years, I found a really good way to, you know, bridge that. So I'll give you an example. There was a client who had made a movie based on a script that I didn't recommend. It was a script that I thought was awful, actually. But for whatever reason, the client was attracted to the material. So he made the movie. And when he saw the cut of the movie, he was very unhappy. And the producers they refused to even listen to anything that this client had to say. So the client said, well, look, you know something, then I'm gonna take my name off the movie and I'm not going to promote the movie, which was a death knell for the project. So now, of course, the agent panicked, the producers panicked. And so I got the call that said, hey, you know, could you step in to the editing bay and work with the director and the producers to try to shape the film to be more like the client's vision. And so I said, okay, you know, let's talk to the client. And I was told, no, the client is incommunicado and just doesn't want to talk about it. Done. Now, I've been working with this client for a very, very long time. So I just had to use my intuition. And I went in and, you know, I worked with the creative team. The director actually stormed out of the editing bay when I came in and never returned. And so, you know, I began to make suggestions on how to perhaps fix the film to where my client would be happy. And so that was my job. In the end, the movie was terrible. It was always going to, you know, you can't polish a turd, but my client was happy. And so as a result, the client put their name on the film and promoted it. And the client was, even though the movie sort of, you know, fell by the wayside, the client was happy with it. That's it. My job is to have a happy client.
Yeah. Okay. No, well, I mean, that's understandable. I was just wondering. So we've got a question here. What do you value the most in a script? If you had to choose like one thing that you always look for.
Emotion.
Okay.
Emotion.
Okay.
Because
that's
I want
a good,
to
simple answer.
Because I want to be moved. For me, art, which includes a screenplay, is an emotional experience. It is not an intellectual exercise. There can, of course, be intellectuality to it, but for me, it is about emotion. It's about being moved.
Okay, yeah, no, that makes sense. And then Added to that, do you have a particular genre that you personally like?
I do not.
Or you pretty much
I do
across the
not.
board?
Yeah,
No.
my job is to just read material, and so I have no favorite genres, and because over the years I might have started at, oh, I love this kind of script, and then I'm disappointed by it anyway. So I just go into it that the script is the script, and it's going to take me where it takes me. And there might be films that I wouldn't go see because they're in genres that I don't particularly love, but even still,
You can
I'm
tell
a,
us which ones they are.
you know, let me just say this. I'm a member of the Writers Guild, and the Writers Guild Theater is actually really close. And so back pre-COVID, they screen movies all month long. So I can just walk to the theater. So, I would probably see, maybe 10 to 15 movies a month at the Writers Guild, which are free. They're part of your dues. So I would often see movies there that I would never go see at a theater where I had to pay for them. And as a result, it really sort of, opened my mind up more to sort of genres that in the beginning I might have sort of had preconceived notions to, preconceived biases. And so it's the same thing with scripts. I have to read them. I'm being paid to read them. So it doesn't matter that I like the genre or not. It's my job. So I just have to read it.
Yeah. No, that's cool. And then there's a question here from Jay. He says, if you can divulge throughout the years, what is your favorite contribution to a produced film? Any favorite script discoveries?
Yeah, there's probably a few. I think early on, I think this one sort of stays with me the most because it was really early on, but I did a lot of notes for Mel Gibson on The Patriot. That was really one of the first projects that, I really, really contributed to. And, to then see those changes in the screenplay and then eventually on the screen, I thought, was really great. And the same thing with The Passion of the Christ. My one big note to Mel on The Passion of the Christ was, I was like, yeah, the ending is such a downer. It's like all of this is supposed to be about the resurrection, which is in that faith something that is very powerful and very positive. It's like, can't we have some kind of hint toward that? Which then in the end, he found some sort of visual way to convey that. And there's a lot of examples, but I think for me, again, The Patriot, because it was really the first time that I had seen sort of my stuff. Actually, prior to that, but this was not necessarily good. Denzel Washington was preparing for a film called The Hurricane, for which he was Oscar nominated. And I sort of just started when, that script was floating around. And so I had some really serious notes about that. For example, in the climactic courtroom scene, the Denzel character is not present. And I was like, wait a minute, hello, this is a Denzel Washington movie. How come he's not here? And the answer was, well, because this is a true story. And he wasn't there. It's like, well, who cares? This is a movie. If you want to tell the true story, write a documentary. And so eventually there were elements based on my notes that were fictionalized. And then, of course, the movie was lambasted and crucified in the press because of those creative liberties. Oops.
No.
So, you know,
So,
sometimes what you see is great, and sometimes what you see maybe isn't so great. Sometimes there are a lot of notes that I have given where there was pushback on them and they were ignored. And I felt very strongly that they shouldn't be ignored. And then when I see the film, I'm like, oh, I was so wrong, so wrong. And so as a result, I've learned a lot from that. You know, so it's like those experiences have really taught me. So it really truly is the idea of, it's like, you know, giving notes that you never see executed in their final form, for me, is not a, you know, full rounded education. So for me, my full, you know, my full education has been that I get to contribute and then actually see how those contributions work or don't work.
yeah, no, that really is the goal. And speaking of which, do you ever get a chance, obviously not now, to go onto set?
Oh, sure. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sure.
For the films
I
that you've
mean, not
edited.
recently, of course.
Mm.
The last time was for I was in Montreal. And so this was last 2019. I was in Montreal on the set of a movie called Dreamland. The title has just changed. It's called Crisis, and it's starring Gary Oldman, Evangeline Lilly, and Armie Hammer. And it's written and directed by Nicholas Jarecki, who's a client, and I helped him to develop the project from a pitch, you know, all the way through choosing the title, of which wasn't my choice.
Okay. So Chris, there's a question here. Do you recall the moment that you read Good Will Hunting?
Good Will Hunting was actually before my time. So I did not read Good Will Hunting. That was before my tenure.
Okay, no, that's fine. So
However, though, let me just say that I do remember, and that I can remember reading certain scripts, like really great scripts. I can remember reading them. Actually, like I can reflect back and think about being in my head at that time, and actually the reading experience, and even often where I was at the time that I was reading it, because that's what good scripts do for me.
yeah, like real life stories. You always remember where you were at that time when, you know, the towers came down or wherever it is.
Right.
So this is a broad question from Stephanie. She says, how can someone fresh and brand new to the film and television industry go about things the right way and find success? I mean, I know that this is a question all the time, but you know, there are some more experienced people on this call and some newer people. What would your recommendation be for the newer people?
Well, the first thing I would say is that there is no right way. So just forget about that. And so I don't really have an answer to this question. But what I can say is this, is that the truly one thing that writers have control over and yet fail to exercise that control is to write a good script. And so the honest to God answer that nobody wants to hear is the reason that people are not successful in this business is because they're not writing the kind of material that anybody wants to make. That doesn't necessarily mean that the script is bad, but they're writing material that people don't want to produce. And that is the number one fact. Because if you write an amazing script, truly an amazing script, then it's going to rise to the top of screenwriting contests. People will hear about it. That's what this business, you know, this business is always has its ear to the grindstone, is always trying to find stuff. And but the truth is that a lot of stuff isn't worth being found. So my suggestion is to really make sure that your craft is where it needs to be. And I can tell you 99.9999999% of the time, it is not. And I know this, and I'm speaking about this empirically because people have come to me and have said, Chris, my script is so great. Everybody loves it. This is the best thing. This is Oscar material. And then I read it and I'm like, wow, this person is delusional. This is terrible.
Mm.
So that is your biggest obstacle, is to really, really hone your craft.
And do you believe, or have you ever seen in your experience that, that people have improved? I mean, do you even give them a chance? Like if somebody comes to you with like a mediocre script or whatever, they go back, they work on it, and maybe in a year or so they've improved on it. Have you seen much of that? That is, that if you put in the time and effort, that there is like a tangible result to that.
You know something, Eve? Because we're buds, I'm just going to be honest about this. If you're my student, sure. But I'm at the agency. This isn't a charity. This is a business. This isn't about getting a second chance. This is about giving me a good script and don't waste my time. Mm-hmm. And so like, that's the real world, like, listen, I go on the inside pitch. I try to sort of do my thing, try to be as altruistic as I can. But, like at the office, I have very, very demanding clients that I have to answer to. I have very demanding coworkers that I have to answer to. So there's just not that kind of room. You give me a script and the script doesn't work, then I move on to the next. And there are millions of others. It's like the script game is like digging a hole on a wet beach. You like dig a hole in the sand and there's your hole. And then in a second, it just fills back up again as the, water and sand rush into it. That's exactly what happens. Your script isn't good, then somebody else is just going to come and take your place. Mm. So,
yeah, well, I think it's better to be realistic about things but a lot of writers have dreams and, we don't want to squash people's dreams, but
listen, something, I'm not squashing anybody's dream, right? Mm. I'm saying, bring your A game. So, the thing is it's like, there has to be an element of dreaming in this business, because nobody would ever do this. Nobody would ever get into this business if they weren't a bit of a dreamer. You have to be a bit of a dreamer, but you also have to be a realist. And listen, let's remember that I have produced films. So I've been in the same boat. I was a writer, I've been in the same boat. I know what it's like to have to go out and pitch your stuff. I know what it's like to hear no's. I know what all of that's like. And the truth is that, I just don't make any excuses. It's just plain and simple that if I'm not on my A game, then I'm going to have doors slammed in my face. That's just the way it is. I accept that as part of what this business is about.
Yeah. And so Chris, if one gets, you get eyes on one of the scripts or whatever that you like, what would the formal process be in terms of like the steps that would be followed? If a script comes to you, say via a client or wherever, what would then happen?
Well, first of all, let's understand that just because I like a script doesn't mean that anything's going to happen, right? Because, let's say I work with a dozen or 15 clients and each of them can only make 1 or 2 movies a year. And, I'm reading 2,000 to 3,000 scripts a year. There is a large surplus of scripts that, are going to be turned away. And because I'm reading at a particularly higher level, meaning that the scripts that are coming to me are often farther along in their development process because they are trying to get talent attached. And so at this point, they often have a budget. They're often making offers, as in saying, hey, we want to pay your client $20 million to star in our movie. So for a project to have, that kind of purse is pretty far along. So I don't hate everything that I read, because again, I'm reading scripts by, for the most part, professional writers who know their game. That doesn't mean that they always work, or that I always connect with them, or that I think that they're right for the client. But so a lot of scripts just get pushed aside that I like, and nothing happens to them. Nothing. So that's the first answer. Then, and by the way, that would be realistic for anything in town. There are thousands, tens of thousands of scripts in this town that people love and that are beloved and have never been made and will never be made into a movie. But ultimately, if that script serves as a gateway for that writer and gets that writer into the game, then that script served its purpose. Right. But there are a lot of scripts that I've read over the years that I, feel forlorn that they have just, squandered somewhere. And which is why I often go back, as I said earlier, and bring up scripts and say, hey, this was a great script, hoping to revive it. But so really, the steps are that I would say, hey, I think the script is great for Denzel Washington. And then at that point, it's up to the agent to decide how they handle it. Some agents, and again, this is sort of every agent at every agency around the world handles their business differently. Some will bring the project to the client right away. Other agents will try to get an offer before they bring the project to the client. There are some clients who won't even look at projects unless there's an offer attached. So somebody like Sean Penn doesn't even look at a project unless there's an $8 million offer. So, but again, that's his business, and so it's like, he could be reading scripts all day long, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Everybody wants Sean Penn in their movie. But he's like, listen, I'm not going to read a script unless there's serious business attached to it. And, so there's that. And then if the client likes the script, then just begins the rodeo of trying to get a movie made. And that can take 2 years, and there's a gazillion steps. All of them are different. Probably the majority of those projects fall apart and don't get made for, all kinds of reasons. And, which is why often it's like, my job is not to bring one project to a client. My job is to try to bring many projects to the client. So the client then has a wealth of projects from which they can choose.
Okay.
Because
let me ask you a question on that. So do you have regular meetings with them, say once a month or once every 6 months? And what's the expectation? How many scripts would you take to them at any one time? Or
no.
However regularly you meet?
No, my clients are very busy. They're off all around the world, usually making movies, and so they don't really have the time to do that. So it's really just about, again, I've been doing my job for a very long time. They know that I know what it is that I'm doing, and if they have any specific directives, then they will reach out to me. So if a client is all of a sudden in the market for a particular kind of project, then they will reach out to me, or they will reach out to their agent, and their agent will reach out to me.
Okay.
Or their assistant will reach out to me. Yeah. So
okay. Okay, no, that's cool. And this is always the $1 million question. Yeah. So, do you read every single script to the end?
I do.
Oh, okay.
I do.
You're one of the special ones.
Every single script. And I do it because I have to. Because sometimes I'm the only damn person in the neighborhood who's read the script. And then when the client wants to talk about it, then I'm the guy. And if I've only read the first 10 pages, it has happened to me where a client is in a meeting with the director, and the client has to let the director know that he's going to pass on the project. I once got a call from one of the world's biggest movie stars who called me from the bathroom of a restaurant during the middle of a meeting from which he has stepped away from to ask me specifically, why am I passing on this script again? Because he'd only read the first act and I had read the whole thing. Now, if I'd only read the first act, I wouldn't be able to service the client. So I have to read the entire project from beginning to end. Also, I cannot write up notes or comments if I don't read the script from beginning to end. Okay. And then sort of as a corollary of that, I really believe that a lot of what I have learned, you know, I have an MFA in dramatic writing from NYU's Film School, and really everything that I've learned in the course of my job. And it's really because I read scripts from beginning to end, even the awful ones, because that's the only way you learn, is just to read from beginning to end.
Yeah. I've also, when one watches pictures, you know, you also learn like what you don't want to do. So, yeah.
Yep.
And then another question. So just as a matter of interest, do you do more features or TV? You know, what is the kind of split between what you have to do, or does that kind of change in terms of the industry and what WME is wanting to do, or how does that work for you?
WME has nothing to do with it. It's just, you know, it's really just whatever is coming my way for a particular client. So if a producer wants to, send a series for Denzel, he'll send a series for Denzel, and I'll read it.
Okay.
You know, and so yeah, so there's no. It's like in this day and age, you can't discriminate against projects. You know, especially now because the industry is in such flux anyway. You know, so it was years ago. No A-list actor would ever consider making a movie for Netflix. Now they're banging down Netflix's door. So, you know, things change. And so, yeah, I mean, I'll read whatever. I tend to, because I work with movie stars, for the most part, the majority of the stuff that I'm reading is features. But I read plenty of pilots. I just read, I read the first 2 episodes, the pilot and episode 2 of a show the other day, and then I just read a 669-page book and its 40-page treatment as a pitch for a potential limited series.
Wow.
You know, so I read whatever I got to read.
Cool. So there's the question here from Svetlana. What would you say is a good path for a talented young person to follow to become a story editor or a lit manager?
Yeah, well, you know, it's interesting because if you're in Europe, for example, story editor has a very sort of specific definition and a very specific role, and a respected role. There really aren't story editors in America. And on TV, there are TV writers who are called story editors, but that's merely just a title, you know, in the sort of step up, you know, as you ascend on the show. It doesn't really mean that you're doing anything all that different than when, you know, you're just a writer. So, and, you know, coming out to Hollywood here to try to get a job as a story editor, there really aren't any jobs, you know, like I'm the only one. So, and, you know, I'm not giving up my job yet. But there are jobs, for example, in development, where you work at studios and even management companies now, where you find projects and help to help to develop them so the company can hopefully turn it into a movie. So, those have always been very popular jobs. They have sort of shrunk over the years. There's fewer of them than there might have been, let's say, in the 80s. But those are the jobs that exist.
So do you think so how does one get one of those jobs? Do they get advertised, or is it just literally like who you know? Or
typically, if like you're not in the business, then you're not going to get one of those jobs. You typically start as an assistant and then you work your way up. So very, very rarely would anybody step in off the street and become a development executive. It doesn't work that way. You started as an assistant, maybe at an agency, maybe a management company, then you moved to a production company where you're an assistant there. And you're putting in 3 or 4 years, and then maybe you are the assistant to a development executive. And then eventually you become a development executive, and then you can rise the ranks, eventually becoming. My neighbor is the vice president of development for HBO drama series. So, but she worked her way up from just being an assistant. So there's a lot of that. That's sort of how it works. Because if you've never been in the business before and you don't know anything about movies or how the business works or how development works, it's not something that they can really train you in. It's really something you have to absorb.
Yeah, it's interesting because about a month or so ago, there was a very rare opportunity in Amsterdam for a development. They had very specific criteria. They wanted an African person with African understanding and knowledge and culture as a development executive, but it seemed that there was other criteria that was almost more important than having been in that business. So I guess, and I'm sure that there was literally like tens of thousands of applicants for that, because I haven't seen lots of those in the spaces that we're in, but yeah.
Well, let me also stress that I'm only talking about Hollywood. I don't know how Europe runs their film market. I don't know how China runs their film business. I only know Hollywood. So that's really the only perspective that I can talk from, but very rarely. In fact, typically, if you do see somewhere, a classified ad, for a development job in Hollywood, it's probably for some grade Z producer who has a criminal record, and he's like working out of his basement, and he's never made a movie, or at least not the kind that you would want your mother to see. And that's typically the way it is. However, not too long ago, Will Smith's production company put out a call for script readers, a public call for script readers. And that's also an entree into development, is being a story analyst.
Yes, that's probably an easier entry point, I guess, in many ways.
But those jobs are harder to get, as opposed to an assistant job where there are so many more assistant positions than there are story analyst positions. And the turnover for assistants is vast, where the turnover for story analysts may not be quite as fast.
Okay. So Marcus has got a question here. It's a little bit, I think, touching on what you said earlier, but if you run across a script knowing it won't work for any of your clients, but you love the voice of the writer so much, you remember the writer for other projects, do you think that has that happened? And yeah, tell us
what exactly. I understand the first part. What was the second part?
So if you actually love the voice of the writer, so it doesn't, the client doesn't like it, but you personally like the voice. Is there still maybe potential that you would remember that script and possibly, move that forward down the line with other clients or something, or maybe reach out to the writer to potentially write something along the lines that one of your clients would like because you like the voice? I don't know.
I wouldn't reach out to the writer and ask them to write a script for a client because I'm not a studio. You know, we don't pay writers to write. Agencies are sellers, not buyers. So, so that is not my business. But if I read a script by a writer that I like and the client passes, which is, you know, most often the case, that writer will stay in my mind. And then when another script comes to me from that writer, you know, I might be like, wow, you know, I'm excited to read this. There was a project called Hoax that I had read many, many years ago that I really thought was great. I loved it for Richard Gere, but Richard Gere just didn't connect to the material. And then every time I would get the call, what do we have for Gere? What do we have for Gere? I would always throw out, well, hey, how about the Hoax? No. Anyway, you know, 8 years of my pushing that, and Gere eventually made the movie.
Oh, okay. I don't know the movie. Was it a success?
It was a critical success. It is the true story of Clifford Irving, a man who wrote a book about his interactions with Howard Hughes, and of course the book was a complete fraud.
Oh, okay, well that's that then. Huh? So there's a question here. You know, so you always you know, push the 3 C's with your log lines. So I assume this is possibly where this question's coming from. So this person asks, are the 3 C's the most important things in order for the script to become a movie? Character, concept, conflict, or is there way more to the final execution? Do you see the log line should translate into the script or what?
Yeah, you know, look, it's a little bit like cooking. You know, you can give me all the ingredients to bake a cake. That doesn't mean that I'm going to bake a good cake. So, you know, the only thing that I can do is sort of give you some of the ingredients, and those 3 C's are just a jumping off point, because the problem is that so many ideas that I hear from new writers are lacking those crucial elements, those 3 C's that create a story. And so, but even if you have those, it doesn't mean that your script is going to be a success, because you still have to execute them. You have to understand structure. You have to understand how to develop a character. You have to understand how conflict is used to create character and push your story forward, and setup and payoff, and you know how the building of scenes and the writing of dialogue. There's so many balls in the air that it's really hard, and this is the reason why most scripts don't work. Because screenwriting is really, really, really hard. If it were really easy, then everybody would be doing it and they wouldn't be getting paid all that much.
All right. Yeah, no, completely. So this is a question somebody's asking, Alexander, should I write to sell or write to shoot my own projects, considering the saturation in the market? So this is maybe a little bit out of your space, but what are your thoughts on that?
It's not out of my space. I think, I think that that if you are a writer-director, then I think that's a great idea. If you're a writer who has no aspirations to direct or doesn't know how to direct, that's probably a bad idea. So that would be my answer to that question. Now, however, that doesn't mean that if you're a writer who doesn't want to direct, that you can't go out and find a producer or be a producer yourself and find a director and then go out and make your movie. So you can do that as well. But of course, there's so many caveats to that, right? It's writing a screenplay doesn't cost a lot of money. Making a movie costs a lot of money. So there's a big investment. And then you're still faced with the same exact problems that you're faced with the screenplay. which is how do I get people to read my screenplay? How do I get people to see my movie? Just because you put it on YouTube doesn't mean anybody's going to watch it. And, but the difference being that, you know, maybe you've just spent 10, 20, 50, $100,000. So while I think it is potentially a great idea if you're really a talented filmmaker, but if you're just going to end up with a bad movie from a mediocre script. So this is why, again, make sure that you're, and actually we never even touched upon this, so I can't say again. Be sure to surround yourself by people that you trust and people who are going to tell you what you need to hear and not what you want to hear when they're reading your screenplays. This means don't let your mother read your screenplay. I mean, I guess you can, but you know, find people who are going to be judicial and give you the kind of feedback that you need to hear. Like, this isn't ready. This isn't ready to film. And, you know, that there needs to be a lot more work on this, because there are just as many movies, just as many produced movies out there that nobody has seen as there are screenplays. Believe me.
Yeah, true. Yeah, I saw that you're producing something this year. I know you produced something many years ago that kind of had a bit of a revival. So maybe you want to tell us a little bit about that. Is there any kind of learnings from that or something that you can share?
You know, I produced a documentary. I produced 2 horror films, and yeah, you know, I'm kind of trying to get revved back into it again. You know, I was really sort of on a roll. I made 3 movies in roughly, you know, 3 or 4 years. And these were all movies that were released nationally, you know, 1,500 theaters around the country. One of them was in the top 10 American box office. So, you know, I was really moving and grooving while I was, you know, holding down my job at the agency, which is usually between like 60 and 80 hours a week. Then I got divorced, and, you know, I'm like a single dad. And so I sort of now had to rethink my priorities a little bit. So I put the producing on hold, and, but now my kid is getting older, isn't really all that interested in me anymore, you know? And so I find myself having a little bit more free time, or not feeling as guilty spending time away from him. And so now I'm getting back into it. And, you know, we were really on the move late last year. And then, of course, COVID sort of stranded us a little bit. But we're out, you know, we're out to talent now, trying to cast the project. And so, you know, hopefully we will land somebody. But it's hard, you know, I mean, it's really hard. Even if you have the money to make a movie, it still doesn't mean that you'll make the movie. Or, you know, you might have to make the movie in a way that you didn't really want to make it. And then as a result, nobody ever sees it. You know, like, we are aiming for A-list talent at the moment. But who knows? You know, in the end, that may not be what we get. And then we may not want to make the movie with, you know, C-level talent. So, but yeah, you know, I mean, I've learned a lot as a producer, because it's taken me into a very different world. And I produced a documentary, you know, a long time ago, and it was very successful for us. And but, you know, it's 10 years old and it's waned, obviously, you know, and we moved on to other things. But in August, Screen Rant, who I'd never even heard of, did a list, and it's just one of these like ridiculous, you know, arbitrary lists. It didn't mean anything to me, of, you know, like the 10 best documentaries that you can see right now on this particular subject. And our documentary made #1, which between us, I thought was pretty ridiculous, because like number 10 and number 9, I think, are like brilliant documentaries. But, you know, who am I to question this writer's opinion? But as a result, all of a sudden there's been renewed interest. And so we're now getting licensing deals all over again.
It's amazing.
It really is amazing. And you know, so we've got, we actually, you know, we've got three that we just signed, and then one other one that's still in the works, but you know, will definitely be a go. And then the one that you're referring to is Broadway HD, which in theory is really not a big deal because, you know, like 3 people will see it there, you know. But for me, because the movie is about arts education and about High School Musical theater, Broadway HD, I feel, is just the best platform. We were, you know, we played on Netflix for 5 years, and the movie was originally acquired by Oprah Winfrey, and we ran on her network, and you know, we were, so we've been like all over the place. But I feel like this is a great audience for the film.
Yeah. Well, I wish you good luck with that.
Thanks.
And we've got a few minutes left. There's one question that somebody asked in a very long question, but what is it? I think we'll end off with this, and then we'll just talk a little bit about the Screenwriter Safari. Is what do you personally enjoy most about the process?
You know what I love about this is an interesting question. I think what I really love about the process is that it is the puzzle solving, because it really is. Because every time you go into a script and somebody's asking you, hey, can you know, give us some feedback, and it's usually more than feedback. For me, they're really asking, how can we fix it? And I think that is a difference between me and a lot of other people, which is that a lot of people can sort of give notes, but they don't always really know exactly what the problem is in the script or how to fix it. And often, even if they are making suggestions as to how to fix it, they're usually the wrong suggestions, in my opinion. And I'm basing that on, you know, 25 years of experience of seeing how notes impact the creative process and how they affect what ends up on the screen, because that's really what it's about, you know. And so for me, going into a script, it's about how to solve a puzzle. And so there's a lot of problem solving, you know. It is solving a puzzle, and I love that. I love sort of having to go off and think about something. Okay, how do we make this work? How do we make this work? How do we make this work? To me, it's exactly like, all right, it's going to be an obscure reference, but there's a scene in Apollo 13. Is that the movie with Tom Hanks?
Yeah.
Where the eggheads at NASA are presented with a dilemma. They're like, listen, Tom Hanks, the CO2 levels are getting very high, and they're all going to die. And so you have to tell them how they can make a filter out of what they have in the spaceship. And here's what they have. And they dump the stuff on the table. And it's like, you know, there's like a bottle, a pumpkin, you know, chewing gum, you know, stuff that you're like, wait a minute, how the hell does anybody make a filter out of this stuff? To me, that's what I do every day. You know, so
okay,
it's like,
that's a great answer.
Oh, thank you. So, so, you know, that's what I love, because it is challenging and it makes me think. Keeps me on my toes.
A little while ago, I was scratching my head, and I was like doing a screenplay, and I actually spoke in my group about it, that I feel like I need a maths degree sometimes to do it, because to work out the structure is very challenging. And you have to think really, really hard, and it's not just linear. So I get that, and I had no idea that would be a favorite part of someone's life. I find it the hardest part of mine.
Well, it's very hard. Yeah, it's very hard. But you know, that's what I like. As Tom Hanks said in A League of Their Own, it's the hard that makes it great.
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah, so there's also another question here about like mentorships and stuff like that, which is kind of ironic, because you're going to be joining us in South Africa in September. So we're very excited about that. I hope you are too.
I'm excited about it, but you know, I hope I don't get like eaten up by a lion or anything.
No, don't worry, you'll be in safe hands. You're just
Okay.
not allowed to kind of go walking about because, you know, there are lines. You'll be
I
very
have to
safe.
say that the grounds look beautiful. The
Venue.
accommodation, the venue, thank you,
Yes.
looks really stunning.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
it's 5-star. It is really lovely. Yeah, and they've got all the big five, which is, you know, the big animals like the elephant, lion, leopard, buffalo, and rhino.
And then we add the big six, which are the Hollywood executives.
Exactly. Exactly. So I think it's going to be quite fun. You know, with RB and Amanda, you know them well, and Jen and Wendy, very, you know, specialized on the TV side and stuff. But I wanted to ask you, what do you think is the benefit of somebody coming on safari like this in terms of what you can offer them in terms of the mentorship? You know, it's going to be 5 days. Every single day, there will be small groups of people. You're going to have 4 mentees, and yeah. So what do you think?
Well, look, you know, I mean, they will have access to me. They will have access to my brain. They will have access to my experience. You know, 25 years of experience on the front lines of this business, consulting with and learning from the most influential talent and filmmakers ever. And so, you know, that's what I bring. And, you know, I'm not a consultant, you know, it's like, you know, I mean, I'm not like a consultant for hire, you know, so it's not like anybody can just sort of go to my website and pay me $300 and, you know, get my advice. I don't work that way, you know. And so this is, you know, this is a rare opportunity in a pretty beautiful setting, to sort of get access to feedback and information that is really reserved for the very best people in the industry. So, you know, that's what I'm bringing, you know, that's what I'm bringing to this. That's what I'm bringing to the safari, baby. That and a big hat.
That's why, yes, you must bring a safari hat. And we call them khakis. You have to wear khaki shirts and khaki shorts. And in Afrikaans,
no, wait. Well, okay, well, wait a minute. Time out. I don't wear shorts. Not with my like skinny white chicken legs. No shorts. Forget it.
You know what? It's going to depend how hot you get. When we were there in September at the same time, it was like 33 degrees Celsius, which is about 94. If you're that hot, you might just put on a pair of shorts, risking those little chicken legs.
I lived in the San Fernando Valley where Septembers go up to 117 degrees. That's nothing. That's nothing.
Okay, so no khaki shorts for you or feltskins. Yeah, and you know, just in terms of the networking, you know, how do you feel about that? I mean, it is a different kind of experience. You know, it's not formal, but you know, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, you know, I think like the business is all about networking. So it's all about who you know. And I think it's fair to say that when you spend 5 days with people, it's kind of like going to summer camp. You know, you bond. I did something similar with Dreamago, which is a European retreat that meets in Switzerland. And you know, I forget how many. I think I had 10. You know, I think I had 10 mentees. And
well, this is going to be far more exclusive. You're only getting 4.
Thank God. And so and you know something, those people still reach out to me. They still reach out to me. One of them just reached out to me last week, you know, with a question, and they're family. You know, they're family now. So and and I respond accordingly. So, you know, unless you're bringing like, you know, Ted Bundy and Lucrezia Borgia, you know,
We'll try not to do that.
I'm sure that we're all going to hit it off, and, you know, they're going to have a friend.
Yeah, it'll
me.
be very intimate. It'll be very intimate because we've got exclusivity of the lodge. So it is a retail lodge, but we'll have exclusivity of it. We'll have free reign, so we can pretty much do, you know, what we like, respectively. And yeah, there's 2 game drives a day, 1 in the morning, 1 in the night. So it's a long day because obviously the mentorships and the learning needs to also take place. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. And
I'm bringing power bars, by the way, because, you know,
yeah,
because, you know, I can't.
Yeah, you got weird food issues.
I'm not eating pheasant or elk or any kind of weird, you know, any kind of weird thing. Sorry.
They're not too weird. I'm actually pescatarian, so I'm quite fussy. I don't like weird things.
Okay.
So
and I'm actually anti-pescatarian.
Oh, okay. Well, what you love the fish?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I thought a pescatarian was somebody who only ate fish. No, I'm wrong.
No. I eat no red meat, but I will eat a little bit of fish. But the menu is not.
I don't eat any fish. I eat 0 fish. If it comes out of the water, I don't eat it.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. So just bring the protein bars because I wouldn't want you collapsing and falling off a Land Rover.
No. I can bring my protein bars.
But the food's very nice, and there's not like weird stuff. I've been to restaurants sometimes where they want to serve you crocodile and all sorts of weird stuff, but it's not like that. It's very, very nice food. I don't think you'll starve. Yeah. So guys, just also maybe just some information. If you want to go and book your spot with Chris, you can go to the website. I'm just putting the website address here. Let me just check I spelled it right. Yeah, go check it out. You can read his full bio and you know, check out all the other mentors, and also look at the venue as well, because it's going to be amazing. There's also a early bird discount till end of April. It's $4,800. That's inclusive of 5 nights at the 5-star lodge with your mentorship, meals, most drinks, and all the airport transfers and everything as well. So yeah, if that interests you, then please go to the website, and you can also then just drop me an email on info@scriptafrica.com. Hope I've spelled that right too. I'll put it in the chat. Yeah, so Chris, I'm going to do what you do, and I'm going to ask you the last question that I love that you ask is, what question did we not ask that you wish we had?
Oh, I always hate that question. I hate that question.
But you ask it, so you have to. Yeah.
I got to ask something at the end. Oh, I don't know. You know, I'm so bad at this stuff. I'm not a good interviewer, as you can see and I'm not a particularly good interviewee either. I don't know. How about any other questions? Maybe there's another question down there that was really good. Maybe that's one. Maybe I'll be like, that's the one that we should have asked.
Let's see what we've got. I'm just having a look. Sorry, guys, it's difficult to read the chat and talk to Chris.
Very stressful.
I'm just.
Hey, how about that election, huh?
No, let's not go there. No politics.
Okay.
Everyone loves your thing about the problem solving, the puzzle solving. And okay, here's one.
Hey, Jay Arnold. What's up, Jay Arnold?
Yeah, Jay's here. Oh, this is a question somebody had in the Q&A. I think I know the answer to this, but maybe you can tell us. Does WME ever have like competitions for, I'm going by memory now with this person's question. Here, Chris, are there any notable competitions that feed scripts to WME? That's from Michael.
It's kind of a hard question to answer. I think overall I would say no. But what I would say is this, is that at any agency anywhere, although an agency in of itself may not endorse a contest or say, yes, we are the official agency of this contest. Agencies are made up of agents. And so individual agents in of themselves might make it part of their business to follow certain contests. So often, like, yeah, so like, you know, you might see a contest where it's, you know, where it says sort of in its advertising about all of the Hollywood companies that are involved. And you might see ICM, CAA, WME, Sony Studios. But the truth is that that is not an endorsement from any of those companies. It just means that perhaps one person from that agency has agreed to read a script from the winner. And the truth is that that one person could be an assistant, you know, could be an assistant who isn't, you know, an assistant to the custodial staff even, you know. So there's, you know, so there's no guarantee. But yeah, so the answer to that question is no.
Okay, no, well, that's cool. But yeah, I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. And to everybody else who joined. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. I hope everyone else did. But I will connect with you all on the socials, and I'm always interested to see what's going on in your screenwriting lives, and often your pets' lives as well. That's just me.
And you can join me on the Inside Pitch at Facebook.
Yes, and also Screenwriter Safari. And I send a lot of people to your page as well because it's very informative.
Thank you.
But yeah, Chris, thank you so much for your time today.
All right, I look forward to seeing you in South Africa.
Yeah, me too. Okay.
So exotic. Goodbye, everybody. Have a great week.
Cheers, everyone.
Thanks for coming.
Yes, thanks so much, people. Okay, bye.
Keep writing.